Welcome to my channel. If you like the content, please subscribe for more.
Should I take revenge? It's been a year since my wife and I got divorced. I never imagined I would be in this position, but things fell apart when I found out she was cheating with a coworker. To make matters worse, he knew we were married and had kids. He was married too, and his wife was pregnant. It felt like a betrayal on so many levels. I was angry, hurt, and felt like my whole world had been turned upside down. The hardest part for me was knowing that this man had knowingly and willingly destroyed my family. Sure, my ex-wife had played her part in it too, but he should have had more respect for our family and the fact that we had kids. It was like he didn't care about the impact his actions would have on our children's lives. Now we're in the midst of a divorce, and while my ex-wife has moved on, this man is living happily with his wife and new baby, seemingly without any consequences for what he did. It's not fair. I know revenge isn't the answer, but part of me really wants to make him pay for what he's done. I'm not sure what to do. I don't want to do anything that would hurt my children or make the situation worse, but at the same time, I can't just let it go. It's like a weight that's constantly on my shoulders, reminding me of the pain and betrayal I've experienced. If anyone out there has been in a similar situation, I would appreciate any advice or support. It's not easy dealing with the aftermath of infidelity, especially when it feels like the person who caused the most damage is getting off scot-free. But I know I need to find a way to move on and heal for myself and for my children. Redditor's reactions. Update after. Redditor 1. Arm the nukes. Full send. Destroy him. Redditor 2. Why didn't you tell his wife when you first found out? It's not revenge. It's educational for her. Redditor follow-up. Because she was pregnant and it might have hurt an unborn child, but as soon as the baby was born, he should have informed her. Redditor 3. That's not revenge. It's her truth that she doesn't even know about. At least she can make an informed decision with all the information. Tell ASAP. The more you wait, the worse it is for her. Redditor follow-up. She definitely deserves to know this information so she can make an informed decision. Update. I'm so happy to share an update with you all. As some of you may remember, I recently went through a divorce due to my spouse's infidelity with a coworker. I was devastated and heartbroken, but I refused to let them get away with their actions. Well, I have some amazing news to share. After I exposed the affair and the other party's spouse filed for divorce, my ex's affair partner was hit with a huge financial penalty due to the laws in our divorce fault state. I couldn't be more satisfied with the outcome. It's been a long and difficult journey, but I'm finally feeling so much better. I'm grateful for all the support and advice from this community throughout this ordeal. I never could have imagined being in this situation, but I'm proud of myself for standing up for what's right and not letting my ex and their affair partner get away with hurting me and our family. Thank you all for being here and listening to my story. I hope this happy update can bring some positivity to anyone else who may be going through a difficult time. Remember, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and justice can be served. Story 2. My wife and I hit it off right away. When we first met, we were both in our early 20s. Less than a year later, we got married in a small church in front of just a few people from our immediate family. We were both certain that there was no one better in the world for each other, despite the fact that our families couldn't understand why we were so eager to wed. We coexisted peacefully, sharing commitment and love with each other. We had a very high standard of living and valued modesty. We quickly became friendly with our neighbors, and up until the arrival of her colleague, we had no issues. All of my wife's irritations were brought on by her new coworker. My wife and her didn't get along at first. She had a god complex and an inflated ego, but she always managed to look good. Every time she walked by, the men in the office would crane their necks and try to sneak a peek at her. My wife would scream and rant when she got home for a month about how annoying her new coworker was. If I was lucky, she would be talking about how her new coworker messed up at the office that day with a big smile on her face. Whether I wanted to or not, I had to always lend my ears and pay attention. I would feel incredibly exhausted on some of those days and would want to rest, but I was aware that I needed to support her. I was her best friend and confidant, and if I wasn't able to lend her a sympathetic ear, then I had failed in my duty to be there for her. Frequently, I would advise her to resign from her position because I was sick of her colleagues' antics. Then, my wife would launch into a protracted tirade about how long she had to look for this position and how it was her dream position. She would sense my frustration and remain silent, and I would do the same. The remainder of the day would be marred by the bad mood. Despite everything, I was confident that my wife was worthwhile. She loved me just as much as I did, and I knew it. I was not going to let her colleague destroy the life that we had worked so hard to create together. I therefore made the conscious decision to be tolerant and to always be there for her. After her colleague eventually left the company, everything returned to normal. My wife and I were once more joyful, and our lunch more joyful, and our love only grew deeper. I was certain that she was the only person in the world for me as we continued to build our relationship. Suddenly, all the complaints, anger, and everything else stopped. When my wife came back from work late, there was no grimace on her face. She didn't express any anger or engage in long conversations with me. I was going to ask her what had changed, but I decided to avoid doing so. If it was important and she wanted to tell me, she would let me know. And she did let me know one evening. She told me that she had a conversation with her new colleague, and they discovered they had a lot in common. They hung out and talked, and my wife realized that her colleague wasn't so bad after all. I was happy for her and wished their newfound friendship a stronger bond. Then changes started to come. My wife, in less than a month of hanging out with her new friend, completely changed her wardrobe. She now preferred colorful and sexually appealing clothes, abandoning the modesty and simplicity our relationship enjoyed and thrived on. My wife also started hanging out late with her colleague, turned buddy. At first, it was just lateness from work, but their outings soon included free days and weekends. It was weird because my wife was never like that, and it was a whole new experience for me. But I refused to have any crazy thoughts or feelings. I trusted my wife. Perhaps it was all a phase that would be over soon, after she wore out the feeling of having a new friend. One day I needed to check something on the internet quickly, but I couldn't use my phone because it was handling another task. I asked my wife to borrow her phone to check out the page I needed. While I was on the phone, a call came in, and I took it. When I was done with the call, the browser was closed and I had lost the page. I decided to check her browsing history to see if I could find the page. As I scrolled through her browsing history, I saw her recent search, "How to tell your husband you've been cheating." I was confused. My knees were weak. I didn't want to conclude anything, so I dropped the phone and asked her for an extended explanation. Why was there a search like that on her phone? What was going on? Was she cheating on me with someone else? All through the questions, she didn't say a word. When I was done asking, I shut my mouth expecting a defense or apology. If she was sober and truly sorry for what she had done, I was ready to forgive her. But when she finally talked, she dropped a bombshell. I didn't want to conclude anything, so I dropped the phone and asked her for an extended explanation. Why was there a search like that on her phone? What was going on? Was she cheating on me with someone else? All through the questions, she didn't say a word. When I was done asking, I shut my mouth, expecting a defense or apology. If she was sober and truly sorry for what she had done, I was ready to forgive her. But when she finally talked, she dropped a bombshell. She dropped the bombshell that she wanted a divorce, saying that she had met someone else and believed she had found love with him. She wanted to get out of our union because she wanted to feel something else. Her words devastated me, and I was at a loss for how to respond. I left the house, and when I returned, all of her luggage was gone. The divorce papers were on the table, waiting for me to sign. Her calls and texts started pleading with me to sign the papers, but I felt emasculated and humiliated. I wasn't even sad about the life we had lost. I refused to give her the one thing she so desperately wanted. Instead, I chose separation and blocked her calls when they became too much. It has now been 3 years, and I still haven't signed the papers. Her occasional calls are full of cussing and name calling for not letting her move on with her life. However, where I'm from, it takes 7 years of complete separation for it to be considered a divorce. So I always remind her that patience is a virtue and she only has 4 more years of waiting to do. Story 3. My girlfriend of 3 years, D, cheated on me with one of my former friends, H, who is 22 years old. We all live in a decent-sized town in the northwest of the U.S., and we still reside in our respective parents' homes. I wouldn't say that D has used me, but I have always been there for her, helping her grow as a person, cleaning her room on numerous occasions, teaching her how to drive, getting her a car, and trying to help her with school. We have gone on little dates for ourselves, even during the coronavirus pandemic, and I bought her a really nice bed. I have been there for her through eye surgery and other issues, and I have always tried to calm her down and speak sense to her. D has her own problems like anxiety, depression, and bipolar disorder, and she has never been the most passionate, considerate, or empathetic person, but I loved everything else about her. She was my best friend in this world. Sweet, funny, weird, sexy, and a badass. I know people say that you should do things for yourself, like getting a car, going to school, and making money, but I made her my world and planned our future together. We even lost our virginity to each other, and her family loves me a lot. We have worked at the same place since we first got together. D has her own problems like anxiety, depression, and bipolar disorder, and she has never been the most passionate, considerate, or empathetic person, but I loved everything else about her. She was my best friend in this world. Sweet, funny, weird, sexy, and a badass. I know people say that you should do things for yourself like getting a car, going to school, and making money, but I made her my world and planned our future together. We even lost our virginity to each other, and her family loves me a lot. We have worked at the same place since we first got together. At the start of 2020, things started to change. D was having problems with reality and became somewhat very religious, thinking that the media was showing that it was the end times with the fire and the close war with Iran. She started having problems finding God and herself. In January, I started school about 50 minutes away from where we live, and from January to March, she tried to get her life back on track with my help as much as I could after school hours. However, at the beginning of April, she pushed me away, and her dad didn't want me staying at their house because I wasn't working as much due to the coronavirus pandemic. So, I stayed at my place, and both of our cars broke down, making it even harder for us to see each other. Despite all of these challenges, I still showed her that I loved her by trying to work, going to school online, and always trying to make conversation. However, Di started ignoring me no matter how hard I tried, and I noticed that she talked to others way more than usual. I finally got tired of being blown off all the time, so we had a talk, and she said she was losing feelings for me and needed time. The morning after, I saw a notification from H, and I confronted D about it. She said she was getting confused with him, and she was going over to his house to sleep over. She blocked him on Snapchat and gave him an excuse not to tell anyone. That day, D broke up with me anyway. It was something she always told me whenever we had a fight or disagreement, that she would go over to his house and they would have time. A couple of days later, we talked on the phone, and at that point, I had no clue what had happened. Dee apologized for everything and said she wanted to get back together. I told her I would take her back, but she had to break everything off with him. She went to his place to do that and blocked him on all social media. He even tried talking to me, asking if I still wanted to be his friend or if I hated him. The day after that, Dee told me she still had feelings for H, but she had realized that she regretted what happened and didn't want the things H had to offer. She also found out that H was using her and was We got back together that night, and Dee told me everything that had happened between them. I broke down and haven't slept at all. She says she loves me and she messed up, but now I'm not sure what to do. My friends don't necessarily like Dee anymore, and I haven't told her parents or mine. I love her, but I don't know if I should stay in this relationship. If I do stay, can we work it out? Update. In the end, she couldn't try anymore, and now we're separated. Redditor's reaction. Redditor 1. Bro, don't even waste your time with her. She played you, and you let her know exactly how you felt about it. Yeah, it was harsh, but at least she knows how much she hurt you. Don't feel bad about it, just move on and enjoy your new life. Redditor 2. Listen, when it comes to people who cheat or knowingly pursue someone in a relationship, Reddit always jumps to the conclusion that they're the devil incarnate. But let's be real. While the way you ended things the second time may have been a bit harsh, she was constantly pushing for something you didn't want. You were right to let her know that her behavior was a major turn-on. And honestly, who wants to be with someone who resorts to manipulation? Keep focusing on yourself and being upfront with people from the start. It'll save you a lot of trouble down the road. Redditor 3. Dude, I hope you've grown a spine since then. The only positive thing that can come out of this is that you learn to stand up for yourself and not let someone walk all over you. Keep working on yourself and don't let anyone treat you like a doormat again.